Hello everybody, welcome. I'm No02 and you're watching this video. We are beginning our guides for Haz-5 solo missions. Why would you want to do this? Why would you want to do this? Maybe you want to play with random people. Maybe you enjoy the solo experience. Sometimes I do that as well, just to take it easy, blah, blah, blah. But then why Haz-5? Why Haz-5 solo missions? And I don't want to say this is going to be the best way to farm, obviously. If you were in a coordinated team of 4 people completing missions as quickly as you could, that'd probably be the best way to farm anything in this game. But Haz-5 solo missions do have led me to discover something. When it comes to the overall time spent to finish a mission, complete it, typically mission length and cave complexity are bigger factors. Haz-5 will effectively double the amount of credits and XP that you can earn in a mission by completing the primary objective, but this doesn't necessarily double the amount of time spent in the mission. I thought that was kind of neat. I've also been learning a lot about the game in general, the weapons, the class, the scout in particular here, as well as just how the game functions and how the game spawns things and things like that. Seeing the walls of the gameplay rules here, as I've been doing solo Haz-5 missions, and it can be a fun challenge for you and your friends and things like that, for the clout. You know what I mean? Like for the reason for living, clout. Anyways, this is the build here for Haz-5 solo mining expeditions. We'll be going through all of the different mission types eventually here. And in conjunction with this scout build, we will also have a link in the description for the Bosco build that we use for the Scout Haz-5 solo missions, and also a gameplay video where I will then take this build that I'm about to talk about and show you how to do it in a mining expedition mission. So again, this build specifically for the Scout Haz-5 solo mining expedition will eventually, video by video, go through all of the mission types. And so let us begin with the perks. And similar to why we have Bosco, which you'll see in the other video, Bosco has the mining expert. Time is so important in Haz-5 missions. The longer you're in the mission, the more likely it is that you're just gonna die. You'll run out of supplies, you'll run out of nitra, you'll make a mistake that'll cost you health. Health is our mistake resource. You only lose health typically when you make some sort of mistake, and eventually you eventually run out of resources and you die. So we have resupplier, veteran depositor, and deep pockets. Because we're the scout, we can go far, we can go fast, we can zoomy zoom. Because of that reason, Molly is pretty much always going to be playing catch up with us. Molly and wrangling Molly will be a big part of learning how to play this Haz-5 solo style here that I'm going to be showing you guys. Wrangling Molly will be just a big part in general, like a big learning curve to overcome. But also a big part of that is just having to go back to her as less often as possible. Did I say that correctly? We don't want to go to Molly that often because stopping and dumping minerals is slow. We want to utilize as much time as possible by having deep pockets, both in our armor and as well as the perk and things like that. So we can be mining stuff. Bosco will be mining stuff. We'll get nitro. We'll get more kite. We'll stack it up to 60, which is our max pocket size here. And then we'll go back into deposit. That should overall save us time. And we'll also save time dumping in and things like that, which I love. And also, too, if things are getting really scary, playing around Molly, having Molly near us and things like that actually gives us damage reduction and can be quite good when utilized correctly in the right situation. We have Resupplier. I'm pretty sure that Resupplier is going to be a universal perk for Haz-5 missions. Having the ability to restore your ammo and your health while under pressure in the middle of some sort of horde event while there's things chasing you is so... I don't want to say it, but it's so clutch. Oh my goodness. It's so clutch. It's so good. This will literally save your life multiple times, and also getting the extra health value out of it is also really nice too. Because again, the more mistakes we make, it typically costs us health, and being able to restore more health per resupply is also really good. Keep in mind, in solo mode, your first resupply is the most important resupply. We get 4 uses out of it. That's a ton of resources for us to have, to gain, and things like that. And so, again, just being able to resupply under pressure is really, really nice, really, really convenient. The other 2, Veteran Depositor and Deep Pockets, that's specifically for the mission that we're doing, Mining Expedition. Next, we have Heightened Senses and Iron Will. In our Bosco build, because we're the Scout, we typically don't ever die or die less often. We have a lot of the grappling hook is an amazing tool just to save yourself from danger. So we choose other options there as opposed to choosing the extra life from Bosco. When it comes to our extra active perk, though, I feel like there's not a whole lot of value to be gained here. Some nuanced benefits, like maybe having dash, and we can grappling hook and dash, but it's like it's a little bit of overkill, and we can have hover boots if we do a bad grapple. But for the most part, these are all things that the better you are, the more skilled you. Excuse me, the more skilled you are, the more comfortable you become with the grappling hook. That snuck up on me. The less often you just end up making mistakes with the grappling hook, the less often you end up dying. So we don't take the extra lives from Bosco, but when it comes to the extra perk here, not a whole lot of value to be had, and so we'll take the extra life here and our active perk slot. This is our prepared to lose thing. Also, too, with Iron Will, we have Resupplier plus the grappling hook plus red sugar. So our Iron Will can effectively be an extra chance to keep going in the mission. And we Iron Will, we grappling hook to a resupply or to red sugar, we're good to go. So this is our prepare to lose thing here. In lieu of choosing it, or it's maybe a little bit weaker in Bosco, we'll choose it here because having a second active ability for the scout is kind of weak in general. So Iron Will is your extra chance at winning the mission. Then we'll go into the deep core here, our assault rifle here. When it comes to the build here, I don't want to make a build that is overclock dependent, right? I would love to have the overclock for the M1 that makes it better, hip fire weapon, gets you more ammo, shoots faster, blah, 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 right? That would be a nice, well-rounded weapon to potentially have here. But I don't want to make a build that, doesn't work unless you have that specific overclock here. So when it comes to the overclocks, run whatever you have. When it comes to the deep core, the overclock that does bonus damage versus enemy weak spots, the AI assisted whatever, plus 50% weak spot damage, that's really good. Or because we are going to be running the boomerang, which electrifies enemies, the overclock for the plus 50% damage versus electrocuted enemies, that's also good as well. But we're choosing the deep core here because out the gate, naturally, inherently, this assault rifle is the best all-round weapon as far as having magazine size, fire rate, and damage to deal with hordes of enemies. Decent reload speed. It also has decent damage per shot, plus coupled with its fire rate, so it has decent DPS overall to deal with higher health enemies and things like that. And we're not fighting any dreadnoughts here, right? Again, the mining expedition. So this is the best all-around weapon without any overclocks necessary, so that's why we're choosing it here. This is how I build it. Increase fire rate to increase our DPS as well as crowd control potential. Increase damage. I almost always value ammo here, but again, that first resupply is super important. If we do these missions fast enough, sometimes all you need is one resupply. And when it comes to a single resupply, we get 4 uses out of it. That's 200% resources that we can gain. So usually ammo is not an issue once you get your first resupply. And if you can get one resupply, and that'll give you enough resources to deal with multiple swarm events, which can then chain you into your next resupply. So we just care about damage, DPS, less shots fired, quicker TTK when it comes to eliminating bugs and other enemies and things like that. And so we don't really care about the ammo here because we get all 4 uses of a resupply. We'll take the damage instead. We'll take the increased magazine size to increase our ability to deal with swarms, right? The ability to keep shooting, push the swarm back away from us as we keep shooting and things like that. Increase our overall weak point damage. Our overall DPS goes up here again. The armor breaking. Does anyone understand how armor breaking works? Because I don't. I don't understand how it works one bit. And then we'll move on to the improvised gas system again. I kind of like the stun, but for the most part, why stun something? Why stun something if you can just squash it faster, right? And so we'll again just increase our fire rate here. Be careful not to overshoot and anything like that, right? It all takes, you get used to how long you need to hold down fire button before something blows up. So get used to that. But again, this just in general increases our overall DPS. And then this is the overclock I have because it's the only one I have. So use whatever you like. Use whatever you feel comfortable with. But that is the deep core here for us. It's just a good, well-rounded weapon all on its own. Good fire rate, good damage per bullet, good enough at least. Whereas like the classic is better suited for high health enemies, and the plasma carbine is not good versus high health enemies, but good versus the swarm. The deep core is right in the middle. We can do so without the need of any overclocks. Now we go to the BoltShark, and this is where things sort of get important for us here. This is where one of our most powerful tools is in the game for the scout, and it's the pheromone bolt. Our ability to deal with and manage hordes, as well as synergize with Bosco, is all dependent on this bolt. Super, super powerful. The high health enemy shows up, we pheromone bolt it. A nice chunk of the horde will then be swarming that enemy. It will increase our DPS versus those high health enemies because they will be being attacked. That high health enemy also has a tendency to shoot back at the enemies who are fighting him. Again, just lots of damage versus the horde or the swarm. I keep saying horde because I play Back for Blood. Swarm makes more sense here because they're bugs, right? So a nice bit of crowd control here, as well as potential damage inflicted onto the swarm. But also, too, that once we clump up enemies with this, it's a great juicy target for Bosco to shoot with our rocket. And that'll be the primary wombo combo that we will be doing most often. Pretty much always, we'll be trying to clump up enemies as much as possible and then blow them with a rocket. And so we want to be able to do that as much as possible. Here we actually pick up the ammo for the pheromone bolts. Get a couple extra bullets here. So we skip the damage, I know. For the most part, ammo isn't really an issue. We're only really using this during swarm events, but ensuring that we have enough, regardless of how poorly things are going, is really, really nice. And when we do resupply, it's percentage based. Having extra maximum slot means we get more value out of that 50% when we do resupply. It's quite nice. Reload speed. And then Battle Frenzy. The ability to recover the bolts from range is nice if you miss, but for the most part, again, as you get better at the game, you miss less often, right? Our primary targets are, with the pheromone bolt is going to be big, high health enemies, so usually once you get comfortable with the bolt, you miss less. So might as well just pick up the Battle Frenzy here. When we use our regular bolt to drop a grunt or things like that, extra bit of movement speed is nice to reposition as we're reloading and things like that. And then we increase the time for our pheromone bolt so that it lasts longer. More crowd control is always good for us. This means that maybe you can bolt something and then Bosco's rocket finally recharges and then you blow it up and things like that. So this is going to be the primary tool for crowd control here as far as dealing with the swarm events and things like that. It allows us to synergize with Bosco's rocket. So get used to this, get comfortable with this. It's a very, very powerful tool. This is probably, just in general, even outside of solo Hazard 5 gameplay, this is probably a super solid BoltShark setup just for whatever, just for dealing with a swarm event at all. It's a lot of crowd control potential that you can give to your team as well, and group play and things like that. And for the overclock, nothing here specifically as far as how to build this. Use whatever overclock you like or that you work with, or that you feel comfortable with, right? Obviously, like if we had flame arrows for the BoltShark, that can also be a nice bit of extra AoE damage. I don't have it. So if you got it, rock that. That's cool. This is what I have. So again, the BoltShark here, the build works, and it is Hazard 5 competitive, and you don't need a specific overclock in order to accomplish that. Pickaxe here. Power attack, because you have to. This might be a hot take, but I'm pretty convinced that better weight balance, the cooldown reduction on the power attack, is the best of these three. That's my hot take on it. I'm not going to go too in-depth here. I like to swing more often. If you like to hit harder when you do swing, then that's fine as well. But I personally prefer the swing more often perk here, the 10-second timer reduction. So choose what you prefer here. It's the pickaxe is not a huge deal, right? Now the flare gun. Here. So we're going to get extra ammo back, because that's, again, more overall flare uptime here, comparatively to the thicker core upgrade. And then we get the fire rate, and we don't care about the ammo upgrade because we get auto reload. And I as you can see here, I play this literally for every mission, every like all the time, no matter what, because I literally haven't upgraded the other choices here. I am convinced that this is really good. This is probably the best. I understand that maybe extra ammo is good in team play and things like that. For the most part, though, having the ability to pull out the flare gun, blam blam a couple of flares, put it away, not worry about it, saves us time as it auto reloads behind the scenes. I love it, and I think this is probably one of the better flare gun upgrades out there. But again, for the most part, it's the flare gun. You're not going to lose your Hazard 5 mission because your flare gun is not set up correctly, right? So this is what I like to use. Use whatever you prefer. Now the grappling hook. I actually do make, well, I will make a stronger argument here for the grappling gun. This is probably how you should be building it. I never really need the extra range. I never find myself in a position where like I'm desperate to get out of a hole and I can't reach anything. That's never happened to me. Maybe it's happened to you, but we get the recharge reduction, extra range. And now for this upgrade here, this is, do you want the initial grappling hook to travel out faster? Or do you want the, once it has grabbed, to pull you faster, right? It's the initial grab or the pull away. Which one do you want faster? I think we almost always want the initial shootout here to go faster. Because when it comes to falling to your death or trying to get out of a sketchy situation really quickly, having your grappling hook connect with the target and begin the pulling of you faster, I find to be way more valuable. Even if it's just staring straight down at the ground and grappling hook the ground so that you don't die. Sometimes just doing that with a faster bolt. Sometimes you can't do that unless you end up having the faster bolt. It just feels like there's the occasional circumstance where having the faster bolt go out saves you health or your life more often than like pulling yourself and getting more momentum is valuable, right? Does that make sense? Anyways, and then we get the faster recharge time, again having a total of 2.5 second recharge time. This is snappy, this is fast, this is about quick maneuvering, quick repositioning. You're in danger, you can get out of there, keep shooting, you're in danger again, you can move again. For the most part, we're going to have the grappling hook up all the time, and especially in the mining expedition where the mining expedition is set up between like large chamber, the hallway, into large chamber, into hallway. Traveling through those hallways as fast as we possibly can with the grappling hook is really, really nice. And in those hallways, you don't typically have a really long line of sight, and so being able to just have a faster recharge time tends to be more valuable as far as traversing these areas and things like that. I'm convinced that this is one of the better ways to build the grappling hook in general. The fall damage, the better you get, the less often you fall to your death. So don't worry about safety first and momentum. Why care about running faster when we can just grappling hook again a couple seconds later? And now our throwable. I have come to really like the voltaic stun sweeper for our throwable here. We get 8 charges of it. 8! It's still a great tool for crowd control. It does a little bit more damage, right? It does more damage than all of the other grenades. And I know I talked so good about the pheromone bolt. Shouldn't the pheromone canister also be really good? It is. It is also potentially really good, but we only get 8 of them, and it's a little more circumstantial, right? We want to throw a pheromone grenade at a nice big chunk of enemies. That doesn't always happen. Sometimes they're scattered, sometimes they're coming from different places and things like that. So I tend to find the pheromone canister is either really, really good or not so good, kind of bad, right? And there's sort of no in between, right? There's sort of no in between here where you're looking for that perfect situation or it's just not there. The voltaic sweeper fills in that middle gap, I think, where when things are sort of in the middle-ish, things are kind of clumped together, but not super clumped together. It still feels really good to throw this. It hits, 9 targets for 35 damage each, plus it electrocutes them so they take damage over time. It's just super good. 8-second stun duration here. That's a lot of power for crowd control. So I just tend to find that the circumstance where I need the pheromone canister doesn't always happen. The circumstance where the sweeper is good, very common, very easy to use, very easy to throw. Keep in mind we're not running thorns, so our only way of dealing with like swarmers and things like that is our rifle. And actually the sweeper is kind of nice. I mean, it will, it kills 8 swarmers, right, per throw. And even though that's not ideal, we do have 8 charges of it. So a single resupply charge will restore 4 boomerangs to us, and that's actually a lot of value. A lot of value. And so making sure that you throw this as often as you can, so that every time you do use a resupply, you're getting that maximum 4 value is really strong. There's actually a lot of content to be had here, and I'm pretty convinced that this might be the best solo, the best solo throwable for the scout here. And then the armor rig. For the mining expedition, we want deeper pockets, and then we'll get the extra health. I think the extra health and the extra shield, that's probably preference up to you guys, and I like the extra health ball, and then the breathing room. For the most part, when it comes to going down in a solo mission, especially as the scout, it's usually like you're dying at the end of a grappling hook. You're just barely not getting away, or you did sort of like, your last sliver of health is taken away by a tiny bit of fall damage. I feel like a lot of the times these shockwaves or the static discharge, it doesn't really see a whole lot of value out of them initially when you do go down. And so as the scout, because we do have the grappling hook, the extra 3 seconds of revival in invulnerability here, really nice value. Find it allows us to potentially grappling hook really far away and then fall down somewhere maybe, and things like that. So just the extra couple of seconds of it. I mean, it's invulnerability. Why wouldn't you want to be invulnerable for an extra 3 seconds? It's the best value here, I think. Probably the weakest line of the armor, but that's where we'll go here. So that is my Haz-5 solo build for mining expedition using the scout. We'll eventually do one of these for each of the mission types, but all in good time. Questions, concerns, thoughts, ideas, please let me know. Again, in conjunction with this video, I will then be taking this build that I just talked about and doing a mining expedition mission in Haz-5. And we'll talk about that a little bit when we get there. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it, and I will see you in the future.